Us now, Kurt Bardella, NewsNation contributor and media and political strategist, and Republican strategist Boyd Matheson, former chief of staff for Senator Mike Lee and host of Inside Sources on KSL. Guys, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, Marnie.
Kurt, let me start with you. How closely are Trump supporters watching this case, do you think?
I think they're watching it very close. I think this is the equivalent of Trump TV, and the people who certainly believe in Donald Trump, who believe his rhetoric about this being a political vendetta, they believe in that hook, line, and sinker, that they are completely with him. I think the challenge that you have if you're the Trump campaign for president is realistically, there's no new votes to be had here. Like that argument, if you believe in that, you were with Trump already to begin with. And so I think the risk that Trump has, not just over this particular trial, but the other ones that he's going to have to navigate throughout the rest of this year, is the only thing that can happen to him is losing people along the way. If things come out, if testimony comes out, if evidence comes out that doesn't look very flattering, he could lose people. There's just no new votes to be had going through this process.
You know, it was interesting. We had some polling numbers earlier, Boyd, that looked at, the amount of people that thought, yeah, I think that the former president did something unethical, but it might not rise to the level of illegal. How does that play politically, that mindset?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is exactly what Kurt alluded to in terms of where are the votes that could be swayable. The base is the base, and they're not going anywhere. They are actually watching. But there's only 26% of the rest of the country that is watching and paying close attention to the trial. There are some in a race that will be very close come the first Tuesday of November. It is going to be very small pieces of the electorate. It's not these big monolithic groups that we like to talk about. It's going to be some suburban women here. It's going to be families in the Midwest. There's going to be different elements like that can be peeled off to say, wait a minute, this did rise to this, or wow, I can't vote for someone who did that. That's where it gets more complicated for the Trump campaign, along with the fact that the two most important resources that a campaign has is time and money. And so if the president is in the courtroom, he's not out campaigning, except for to those he already has their votes. He's also spending over half of his money that's coming in on lawyers and that part of the process. That's not going to advertising or get out the vote or anything else. And so I think those are the big challenges for the former president is time and money, and then the attention in terms of some of those very small slivers of the electorate that will be swayed by this kind of thing, depending on the result.
Yeah, you're right. And we heard him just say that. I should be in Pennsylvania. I should be in Florida. I should be out on the campaign trail. Kurt, how problematic is that? How big of a hit will his campaign take over the next 6 to 8 weeks?
Well, what Boyd just said is 100% spot on. The most important resource that a candidate has is time and money. And if he is spending 30%, 40% of his time in courtrooms, huddling with his counsel, preparing for these courtroom showdowns, that means he's not focused on the race. You cannot successfully run for president of the United States if you're not all in, if you're not 100% focused on what is the most difficult, trying, challenging contest you will ever have in your life. And if your attention is diverted towards something else, that tactically puts you at such a tremendous disadvantage. And when you get to the final fall stages of the campaign, where any campaign is trying to hit 3-4 swing states every single day, well, if you've got a court date in D.C. or in Georgia or New York, you're not able to do that. And that's a big problem.